Good afternoon, our dear esteemed viewers. On the 6th of July of this year, the Higher Education Students Financing Board, the Executive Director, Michael Wanyama, informed the general public that the government is going to government suspended its students loan scheme for the academic year 2023-2024. And coincidentally, 9 days later, we see that Uganda joined the rest of the world in celebrating World Skills Day under the theme Skilling Teachers, Trainers, Youth for a Transformative Future. Now, tonight's discussion or tonight's topic is centered around Students' Loan Scheme and the World Skills Day. So joining me to discuss this quite an interesting topic, I'm joined by an esteemed and highly qualified panel to discuss tonight's topic. As you can see, they're giving you a smile there. They're going to have a chance to introduce themselves and tell us what they're into. So I'm going to begin from my extreme right, a gentleman who is appearing on this show for the first time, and we're happy to have you. Yeah. Please, Mr. Jamada, allow me to say your other name that I love calling you with. Introduce yourself and tell us what you're into, and we're happy to have you here today.
Hey, thank you very much, Drake. I'm very humbled and glad to be here. My name is Kalinda Jamada Musa. I am a law student, final year law student from Makerere University here in Kampala. And I am a youth leader with U-Report, volunteer with U-Report and UNICEF, as well as a member of the Youth Advisory Board of Amnesty International. It's just a few titles that I hold in regards to the others, but generally I am just a youth leader and an advocate, an active member of my community. Strongly believe that young people have a responsibility to contribute to their community, and definitely that is surely my drive.
Quite a profile. You definitely had to add the final year law student. That's very interesting. We're happy to have you here, Jamada, and we're looking forward to have a wonderful discussion. Remember the last time we engaged in a debate was way back in high school, and it was usually very informative and interesting. Very happy to have you here. Next to Jamada is a lost friend, and we're happy to have on board as well. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, dear viewers. My name is Renette Namara. I am a graduate. I just finished writing my final exams, pursuing a bachelor's degree in economics from Makerere University. I am a reporter too. Yeah. And I'm a mental health activist.
Thank you. Mental health. So definitely, should we expect something in line of mental health today? Because definitely, I believe tonight's topic captures aspects of mental health. Yeah. Nice having you here, Namara. Nice having you. The man in the black tie. Your face is common all over Twitter. A gentleman who is so much vested into climate. But today we're discussing something that's in line of education. And I know your CV, you are a training journalist at UCU. And he goes by the name Jotham. But he will tell us more about himself. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Drake. Hello, everyone. My name is Jotham Ali Naitwe, a final year student at Uganda Christian University, pursuing my bachelor's degree in journalism, media, and communication, currently serving with Teach for Uganda as the campus ambassador at Uganda Christian University, currently the youth ambassador on sustainable development goals, a climate activist with Fridays for Future and Youth Go Green. I'm happy to be here with you.
Perfect. These young people have titles. Yeah? People have titles, and it's scaring me, but it's fine. Nice to have you, Jotham. Looking forward to having a wonderful discussion. Last but not least, a lady by the name Gloria. We're very happy to have you, and please introduce yourself and say hi to the viewers.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Gloria Namakula, a fresh graduate from Bositema University with a bachelor's degree in natural resource economist. I'm an environmentalist, climate activist, feminist, to mention.
All right. As you hear, she's an environmentalist, feminist, climate activist. I like the rhythm, the rhyme and rhythm. Perfect. All right. So tonight we're discussing Students' Loan Scheme and World Skills Day. Jamad, allow me to start with you. You are an advocate for young people, and you're into the spaces where you advocate for equal opportunities for all education. But let us begin the conversation from the suspension of the students' loan scheme. But even before we go into the suspension of the students' loan scheme, we'd like to put a context to tonight's conversation and a perspective that our viewers would want to follow and understand. So in you putting context in tonight's debate, give us a history of how the students' loan scheme began, who are the beneficiaries, when was it introduced, and what are the goals of this particular students' loan scheme?
Thank you very much, Drake. And the students' loan scheme is an interesting topic because it's one of the many steps that, the many attempts that the government of Uganda has taken to increase accessibility for young people in regards to higher education.
Definitely.
Yes. So you have government sponsorship, you have district quota sponsorships, then you have sponsorships for the disabled. And now, since 2014, you've had the students' loan scheme.
Yeah.
And this particularly was introduced to extend access for young people to get higher education, especially for those that could not or were not able to obtain the other scholarships, but were but had the financial limitations that would warrant them to qualify for the loan scheme. So they would need to be of a certain level of intellect, of course, but then also be in a vulnerable position where they can non-finance their education within higher institutions. The program has existed. It was almost celebrating its 10th year. It would have been beautiful for them to celebrate the 10th year, but it was cut short due to financial constraints.
Does that been suspended? It's not cut off entirely.
Suspension.
Though we're not sure when it come back.
You see, suspension was communicated, but there is no communication of when it will return. Well, then it really fits into the bigger picture of some of the programs that the government has had to cut short due to financial limitations. And ideally, you'd think that that is sufficient justification for them to do this, but the question will always arise. Was this the program that had to be cut short? Yes, you've had government suspending recruitment of public servants, but then on top of that, they are reducing students' access to higher education. Over 13,000 students so far over the last 9 years have benefited from this program. Yes, and that's a big number of people that were being able to access higher education, which is very important for their skills and development, and also for them to qualify for the job market. So the suspension of this program is going to be a huge challenge for a lot of young people, but it has also brought into light the debate around discrimination in regards to the award of the program, but also brings back the question of the cost of education generally, because students were being given about 4.3 million per year for their higher education, but then this is going to go away. But it also brings back the question of, should higher education be that expensive or that inaccessible? Because 4.3 million is quite a bit of money for an average Ugandan. So the program was important. It has been cut short, and the government has its justifications. The question is whether those justifications are really viable.
Thank you. That's a very interesting context to tonight's conversation. Before I invite Namara to come in, and then I have my other panelists. When you listen to Jamada, he gives us a brief, the goal or the objective of this particular program. The objective was to offer access for people who cannot facilitate themselves in institutions of higher learning. Now, that said, the program was brought into its inception was in the year 2014. Surprisingly, that was the year that they introduced the World Skills Day. Now, fast forward 2017, we see we see government increase the amounts of money into the basket of the higher education students financing board. Then we see in the year 2020, the government introduces a new payment plan. 2023. Because we understand 2021 and 2022 COVID affected us. 2023, we see the government suspending the program. Yet we see in the year 2022 they reduced the financing of this particular program. But Namara, when you see the kind of the history of both in between the year 2020 and 2023, you understand the fact that COVID came in and one or the other possibly affected or government's priority changed. So do you think it is the right option or the right decision by government to go ahead and reduce funding in such a very a very significant board in offering offering services to students who cannot access financing to higher education?
In my opinion, I feel like, basing on the budget that was passed, there were other sectors that the government could have used to cut short their budget. Education is very, very important, especially for the youth. And I was reading through the comments that were on the page for the loan scheme, and the youth were really devastated, given the fact that some of them had already applied and payment of admission. So they were really devastated by the fact that the communication came in later after the admissions. So I don't think it was a good idea to suspend the loan scheme, yet the sponsorship scheme is still on, and there are some people that are actually going to study on a disadvantage of the rest of the people that cannot actually make it, and they were relying on the scheme to provide for them the funds to take them to higher education.
Thank you. Jotham, when you listen to my sister Namara, she brings out an aspect of an impact that has come up with suspending this particular program, right? From her submission, she mentioned in her profile she's a mental health activist. And I believe that is the first impact that it has on these young people who had applied for these opportunities. Now, allow us to explore other impacts that this has on the aspect of the young people who do not have resources to finance themselves in higher education and do not have the access to the financing that this board offers. Let's explore that impact.
Thank you so much. But I want just to go a bit back on that. The Uganda High Education Students Loan the Loan Fund Financing Board, if we realize, starting from the ages, the top rich people have been benefiting from this, because its aim was focusing on funding students under the STEAM, that is science, technology, engineering, and math. But again, we should ask ourselves how many people had accessibilities in local or community areas to do sciences. I got an opportunity to study from a local community where I remember from one school, we had one computer. That one computer in that institution used to serve as the computer for the bursar, the computer for the head teacher, and at the same time, the computer for the 200 students who were in A-level doing ICT. So if you realize what she has said, I agree with her that a number of factors have been caused to these students who had already applied, because I feel like this is the only hope they had. Imagine struggling from a local community and making it to the cutoff points which were allocated. And then here you hear that something has been suspended. Really, I feel this is something the government should revise or should give an option. I can give you just I can borrow a leaf from Kenya. Immediately when the new president was elected, they also had the same board which was funding, but for them, at least he revised it out. He came up with 3 points, because if you realize here in Uganda, it was giving opportunities from people from good schools. If you can see the statistics that were read, people from around Kampala and Wakiso plus Mukono, with those good schools and profile. But what the president of Kenya, William Ruto, he made it so simple that at least everyone can access it in 3 categories, where for him he gave the vulnerable, the less vulnerable, and the able. So it was made clear that at least, even if, let us give an opportunity for people, the vulnerable, then the less able, then the able. so that at least it targets everyone in the corner. But ours here, really, it wasn't even giving opportunities for people from local communities. And I feel even if we go on the current statistics now, to see the current people who had applied from local community schools, I feel like it would be less.
Definitely. That's devastating.
Yes.
Mrs. Gloria, you see, the saddest reality is we are lucky that we have the opportunity to sit on such a platform and talk about these issues. And we have smartphones and access this information. But we have young people who are out there who, for example, my brother Jotham gave us an example. He studied in an institution where there's just one single computer. Now we have someone who is down there in Kumi, in a village called Kamacha Adodai, where you find there is one primary school that serves a community of over 500,000 people. That they don't have the slightest hope of possibly making it in this country. But maybe the hope was they will push through and maybe get access to this loan scheme. Unfortunately, has been suspended. The other thing, the eligibility and terms and conditions. The eligibility you talk about should be a Ugandan citizen. The requirements possibly you should be facing proof of admission among others. But also they have to see that you're facing financial problems. But then the reality is the people used to get access to these finances. Possibly they do not meet that criteria. Now let us speak, I want you to speak to the heart of, first of all, to the heart of the eligibility criteria, but the reality to the deeper impact that this has to that young Ugandan who had hopes of attending a university, but now that hope has been lost.
Well, thank you very much, dear moderator. I'll begin with a sad soul with a happy face. I'm happy, but I'm sad deep inside. You realize a majority of the youth come from humble backgrounds. At least on average, most youth come from humble backgrounds, whereby accessing education, it's a struggle. When we talk about a struggle, it is a real struggle. Look at a student who has benefited from free primary services. How is it called? UPE, then USA, then
you get a government scholarship.
You get a government scholarship. Then the few have not gotten a government scholarship. They have hope. The loan scheme will come in and supplement. So they wake up to a certain announcement. It has been suspended. Emotionally, this person is being tortured. This person has lost hope. We are going to have parents who are going to die because they thought their hope was that as they were pushing these children from the grassroots to the top, but that one time, if my child doesn't make it on merit, on district quota, they will benefit from the loan scheme. Yeah. Then out of the blue, it has been scrapped off.
Suspended.
Sorry, it has been suspended. So people are stressed. People are devastated. I just really don't know. To some extent, I feel, in my own opinion, it may be something targeting the youth. You realize the youth, we make 78% of the national population. Yeah. So a majority, we are talking about thousands who have been benefiting from this. This would be the 10th court to that program. So they're left there. There is no option. They've not been given an option. Or maybe this time around we are going to reverse. We are going to look into the cutoff points for people accessing higher education, so that everyone can, since we are scrapping off this, everyone will be catered for in these other schemes that are on, maybe district quota. Maybe we're going to increase the numbers of the people accessing the district quota. So not only that, when you talk about the criteria, I'm told that it is a few that benefit from that. And rumor has it, in quotes, I'm not sure, that it's people from good families that benefit from that.
But how can people from good families benefit from a loan because they can pay for themselves for their education?
That's why I called it rumor. I'm not well versed with the statistics. Like, I really don't know how that thing was brought on board. But at the same time, the vision of the it's the vision of
The
the
students
scheme
alone,
was access for all,
Mm.
higher access to higher education for all. So it's part of their vision. So I wouldn't really dwell on that it is the less privileged who are supposed to get, but they've said access for all. That was the vision to why this scheme was put on board.
Okay.
What we want is the scheme we want the scheme to be operational. We want the people who are supposed to benefit from it to benefit from it. We cannot sit down and be here when we are seeing that people are desperate, people are giving up on life. You realize education is an engine to personal development. How are you going to develop yet you can't compete with other people because you lack education?
True.
University is for all. We really have to make sure that everyone accesses education up to university. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jamada, countries like China, their development was spurred or was sparked by them investing in their education. And you see that it's through the education that they're in position to make these multi-tech companies because they invested in educating their citizenry. Uganda, on the other hand, access to education is seemingly becoming hard because the cost is high. And yet, the country has a percentage of 78 of its population being young people. Speak to the heart of cost of education vis-a-vis access to education.
Well, the cost of education and access to education in Uganda has, in my opinion, contrary to what you've said, substantially increased. I believe with the universal primary education, universal secondary education, and the different programs, a lot more people, in fact, are going into schools. However, the question seems to be more on the quality of education that young people are receiving. Because ideally in countries like China or the US or others, someone that has graduated from high school should be able to at least start a business or at least do some sort of work that could be sufficient for remuneration. But that seems to be less and less the case within this country. Yes, so you are trying to give children in primary free education, but which sort of free education are you giving them? And of course, this really makes me raise 2 points in regards to what certain people have been saying, and I'm going off the line with this. One, you find that it's a huge challenge when someone says these programs are only benefiting the wealthy or elite families. There are two concerns with that. One is that the quality of education for the most vulnerable people in Uganda, the poorest, is so bad from the lowest level. These people are not necessarily being denied university sponsorships or admission on student loan scheme. Some of them are not able to pass exams necessarily enough for them to access these programs. So the challenge seems to be from the lowest level of the education system. And when members of parliament come out and question all these things, you're saying that people from top schools are being given these programs. But you're never advocating, these top schools are investing heavily in the quality of education that they produce. And that's why their students are able to attain these programs. These members of parliament that are not able to advocate for increase in, let's say, the capitation grant for primary schools. It has been at 20,000 for a whole year for each student. Which quality of education do you expect such a student to get? So it's going to be hard for them to compete at a national level when they get to that level. But then also the second point that I want to raise in regards to access to education in Uganda is that, especially when it comes to higher education, is that it's expensive for almost everyone. So someone may say that, okay, this person is from, it's an urban area or from a better off environment or family. But 3 million tuition is expensive for even a lot of people here in Kampala.
True.
So yes, people in villages will be a lot more vulnerable. So there should be efforts to increase access for them. And I really like the Kenyan idea where someone identifies as very vulnerable, slightly vulnerable, and someone who is just able. That's important in prioritizing, but I believe that everyone who lacks the finances should be able to access the education. So 2 concerns: one, the quality of education that is provided, the one that is provided for free, is staggeringly low in regards to skilling young people sufficiently, so they are not able to compete or even use that to operate in the job market. But then 2, most Ugandans are still very much vulnerable when it comes to higher education, that they all need to access it.
Jamada, one final question before I go to Namara. You speak to the issue of access to education, which in your argument you say that people have access to education, but your concern comes out to the quality of education. And we clearly know that for people who have attended UPE schools or USC schools, the question of quality is very key, because if I'm to pick a product of a UPE and a product of a private institution, you can clearly see the difference between these two individuals. And yet, the saddest part is the majority of Ugandans are rurally based and go to these schools. So that means in a few years to come, these are the people going to be in the job market. So where will Ugandans be? But now my question to you is, I wanted to address the aspect of priority. Our government over the years, you saw what happened when Morocco was almost going bankrupt. Government went ahead and capitalized it and provided close to 200 and something billion Ugandan shillings to reimburse it as they get back on board. Yet, the saddest reality here is we are not, government is not possibly putting so much concern in educating its citizenry. So does the government prioritize education?
If you want a direct answer, I think it would be no. I don't think the government prioritizes the education in Uganda, and that's quite concerning. I don't want to say, however, because that would sound like I'm defending. They have justifications for that. I don't believe in those justifications, because the government will tell you that we are investing in the infrastructure of the country. Roads are very important to enable trade, and according to them, their economic justification would be that if you improve the economy and you boost, let's say, transport for people, you'd be able to put enough money into people's pockets. If you have enough industries, enough people would be working, and you wouldn't need to provide free education. People would be able to pay for it. That seems to be their plan. That seems to be what they are doing. Do I believe in that? No, I do not. I do not believe that that would work. The government needs to understand that in this century or at this time of the world, you cannot prioritize only one mode of economic development. You need to ensure that your human resource, that Ugandans as people have public services in form of health and education, so that if these people are educated enough, are healthy enough, they can also contribute substantially to your economy or to our economy, in contrast to roads and oil, which is important, but the people are important.
Okay, thank you. Human resource is definitely something that the government should prioritize and invest in. I totally and most certainly agree with that. Namara, I'm very interested in the mental health. Very, very interested in the mental health. You understand that many young people currently are very susceptible to this issue.
Yeah.
And even people who are at the moment paying themselves in school, either through their parents, guardians, or individually, are facing this issue of mental health in terms of stress, in terms of depression. But now to the young people who at the moment had maybe applied and they wake up one morning and read a general public notice released by the Higher Education Students Financing Board, finding out that academic year 2023-2024, they will not release finances for them to go ahead and attend to attend institutions of higher learning. Definitely, that is devastating.
Yeah.
Speak to the deeper impact that this is going to have on the greater majority of the population.
Okay, so that makes me raise a question as where does this leave the youth today? Like suspending the loan scheme for a full year, where does it leave the youth? Giving an example of someone in probably like Bali who was waiting to get admissions and join campus, but now they are hearing the notice that it's going to be off for a full year. As a youth, that alone makes you lose hope. First of all, in the country itself, in the policies, and I feel like when hope is lost, that's where you, as a country, that's now how a country starts getting issues of idleness, robbery, because a year is a lot for someone to be idle and not do anything. And in this economy, you cannot wake up from anywhere and just go grab a job for a full year. There are certain requirements that you need to have, and education is one of them, which is most important. But leaving the youths out there with no hope, they don't even know when the scheme is going to be put back in position. I feel like a full year is such a long time, leaving these people hopeless and meandering around without any other thing to do by themselves. It's devastating for a country as a whole because it's going to affect the country generally.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I remember last year, this year, there was a headline in the newspaper that approximately 14 million Ugandans are facing mental health issues. Now, I'm wondering whether that number is possibly going to scale higher, which I think has even actually scaled higher. Just alone in universities, people are already facing financial issues when it's relating to raising tuition. Now I can imagine what that ordinary Ugandan who used to rely, who hoped to rely on this loan scheme to fund themselves through the education sector would feel like what they're going through. Definitely devastating. Jotham, before we shift gears and discuss, we relate World Skills Day and the loan scheme. Discrimination. You understand that our constitution provides for it's against the act of discrimination and provides for a right to education. And it's not that I'm against the government. This government came in power in the year 1986. No, we're just trying to. I know it's okay.
You can critique
It's definitely, and it's very fine to critique the government. The government came in power in the year 1986 and had a 10-point program, and among them was to provide access to education.
Education, quality
At the moment, before they came into power, the previous government had provided access to education in every district. You'd get a functional primary school, a functional secondary school, a functional dispensary that was accessible to all. 30 years later down the road, with privatization of education and with the idea that once we privatize these programs or these social services, the government will be in position to get monies in their coffers and fund these other social services. But that hasn't yet been the case. The reality here is that you have to struggle through your education, pay a reasonable amount of money to attain quality education, which is very hard. That means most people are getting the barest minimum in these institutions that make them not compete favorably in the job market, neither nationally nor internationally. Doesn't that bring out the aspect of discrimination? I want to speak to that heart, relate or link the two.
On the key factor of discrimination, I feel like apparently right now in the education sector, there has been a lot of discrimination. As earlier my colleague has told you, in terms of education and accessibility of resources in local communities, even here in town, we have schools that can access resources and those ones which cannot access resources. But at the same time, I feel like in the capacity of what we call the career guidance has been neglected by the government, not by the government, but by the institution. Because right now we are facing challenges. The way you have told us that how people go struggle, and at the same time they, after investing in a lot of money, then they go outside and the world and they compete. But at the same time, let's look about the career guidance which is being given to career guidance which is not being given to students. Realize that a lot of, for example, now the government, the current scheme loan which was encouraging STEM here, imagine we are focusing only here on people who are able to take sciences, and we are neglecting people who are doing in arts. I don't want to be
Shall get to that conversation.
yeah.
Shall get to that
If you
conversation.
realize, yeah, these are the bosses to the sciences.
Don't get to
No, okay, I don't want to
that.
get. I don't get. I don't want to get
No,
to
that's
that.
true.
But if you find these are the people, they are left out. But government needs to come up with a clear plan on career guidance. Students are messing up outside there. They are being misled. They are going to see Jamada here with your report, and immediately will run to social work. Like, okay, we need, just know we need career guidance.
Our system.
If our system, either we start in primary.
But in all these various institutions, I attended Macquarie College School. And at college school, they would definitely give us career guidance. Even at my O-level school in Gulu, St. John's College, that was there. And I believe in all your institutions, in all your schools, there was career guidance.
No, let's not look in that perspective of schools that can attain career guidance, but we are looking in a perspective where we need to take it serious, because there are many schools outside there that even you ask a child, what do you want to be? And he's like, let me just do my HBG or whatever, HCG. Like, I just go there outside and explore. But we need to see that if we mentor if we mentor the students starting from the ground level, I want to appreciate the new curriculum, which is trying. The new curriculum really is trying to define something you want, and is trying also to see that maybe you can choose, you can understand where you are, but that doesn't take away that how the government was focusing on the STEM. So my issue here.
But that is where the world is headed to right now, because when you see, we shall later on dive into the conversation on World Skills Day. When the United Nations General Assembly came up with this in 2014, they were focusing on aspects of technology. And that is where the world is headed. So we shall get into that conversation and maybe strike a balance. But let me invite in Gloria at the moment as we try and shift gears to World Skills Day. Just before we shift the gears, I just want you to, at the moment you are a graduate in training, yes? And definitely I believe you also have students from your institution who possibly went through the university through this loan scheme. And at the moment, they have people who are coming in academic year 2023-2024 who will not get this particular opportunity. Paint for us a world, or tell us the impact this is going to have in the long run, because we have seen beneficiaries of this program have been over close to 14,000, 15,000 young people who had access to this program, and they went through the institution. Now, imagine how many people who are not going to have the access to this. Speak to the issue of the long run impact that this is going to have to our country.
Well, thank you very much, moderator. I will firmly say that this issue is going to have a negative impact, a very negative impact. For example, you can imagine the number of pregnancies that are going to come in the near future. You know, I'm a girl, I'm idle, I don't have any hope of going to a university. Then there is a young gentleman who is willing to take me on.
And
We are going
idle as well.
Yes, I am idle as well. The only option that I will be having is going for marriage. Yes, marriage is not bad, but is it a planned one? We are going to have our population increase. And I believe we all know the impacts of having a higher population, whereby we are working under scarce resources. The resources are scarce, but the population is going to increase. Look at the number of drug addicts that are going to come. We have been on fights to fight drug addiction, many things. We have really tried many campaigns, but right now, I believe the many youth that are going to resort to that, I'm desperate, I'm not doing anything, then why can't I look at someone who dropped out from school at primary level, where as long as you don't have the qualifications, you're not satisfied. You are more or less a person who dropped out from school at primary level, you at at maybe a level, because the jobs we're applying for, they ask you where are the papers. For you to qualify for that job, they need the papers. So you being a dropout at senior 2 and you being a dropout at senior 6, we are all the same. So
That speaks to the quality.
yeah.
That speaks to the quality of education as well, because if at all you can compare a P7 dropout with a senior 4 dropout, all of you are unemployed, then that makes you, speaks straight up to the quality of education. But at the moment, I've been signaled by the technical crew that we have to go for a short break. And when we come back from that short break, we are going to have Jamada, who is highly passionate about World Skills Day and among others, as a new reporter, definitely tell us what they've been up to, and we relate this to we show the relationship between the Students' Loan Scheme and World Skills Day, as we look into having the human resource training that this country is supposed to have, as opposed to what is going now. So with that, stay with us, just go for a short commercial break, and we'll be back. Thank you.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Hello viewers, welcome back from that short break. Before we went into the break, my panelists here were trying to delve into the impact of the suspension of this Students' Loan Scheme. Now, into this other segment of our conversation today, I want us, my panelists and I are going to try and create a link between World Skills Day and the Students' Loan Scheme. So right now I'm just going to have Jamada, Kalinda, Musa, who is highly passionate about World Skills Day, and he's a youth reporter and he volunteers with UNICEF. And you understand that this is a program that was put in place in the year 2014 by United Nations General Assembly. And a number of United Nations agencies have taken this up. And UNICEF is among them, since they advocate for children. Now, the idea of coming up with World Skills Day was to celebrate the strategic importance of equipping young people with skills for employment, decent work, and entrepreneurship. Keyword: employment, decent work, and entrepreneurship. Now, the theme for the year 2023 was skilling teachers, trainers, and youth for a transformative future. Now, as you create for us, as you give us a context to World Skills Day, and tell us how exactly it came up. Maybe I've given you a brief intro. You give us, you conceptualize for us World Skills Day. I just want us now to bring the reality back, the conversation back to our Ugandan context here, as we create the link between the Students' Loan Scheme and World Skills Day. Have we really achieved that particular goal and dream that the United Nations General Assembly had as Uganda?
Well, Drake, that's a very broad question.
Break it down.
It includes a lot of things, but I think I want to start from the point of the entire discussion that we've had prior to this. And that's that it seems that everyone who is seated here today, and I think the whole country, believes that young people and the whole country needs educated young people.
True.
Yes. We need people who understand what they're doing, but are also creative enough to create solutions for the problems that we have as a community. And education has been identified as one of the ways that we can achieve such a generation of people who understand, one, the problems within their communities, and two, how to find solutions for that. And a lot of people would have me on the line for this, but I do not think that there is any government or any organization that is going to come up with some novel solution for all our problems. No government around the world, at least that I know of, provides free university education for everyone.
I can cite you.
Yes, Drake will tell us one. But that must be a very wealthy country.
The Scandinavian
Unfortunately.
nations. So,
Unfortunately,
the best
we
students
are not
to
lucky.
study.
We are not lucky enough to
Ecuador.
be in any of those countries.
yeah,
So,
that's the unfortunate part.
understanding our situation, we need to realize that we need to find alternatives for young people to access skills and young people to access education. Yes? And of course, there have been free education programs, and we acknowledge those. We've put a lot of questions around them. And the loan scheme was an added attempt at, of course, increasing access to education. But now we see that even that has gone away. What does this say? That in a country such as this, or in a century such as this, young people need to take the lead on their skilling and their education. Yes, the government and other organizations can have some deliberate measures, and in fact must have some deliberate measures to ensure that young people have access to this information about where they can access these skills, put in place centers, schools, and payment of those schools for young people to access this. But we need to be deliberate about seeking these skills. And if I must come back now to World Skills Day, there have been global celebrations in regards to training teachers and young people for a transformative future. Yes. And particularly here in Uganda, with YouReport, which is UNICEF's flagship youth program, UNICEF launched a new tool on YouReport, which is called Fandu. Now, Fandu is something that you go on your phone and you send a message either on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. Very soon, maybe on SMS, you send the word Fandu. It literally translates fun and then doing. And when you send that message, you would be able to sign up for YouReport. And some of the skills that are included, the tool is meant to give young people information and do tasks that teach them what we refer to as 21st century skills. Now, we have vocational skills. We have education, where you learn English and maths, very important thing. Vocational skills, using machines, mechanics, those are very important things. But then there are things that are called 21st century skills that young people need.
What are those 21st century?
Yes. No. Yes, I know that is a question. The word seems very catchy, but what are they really? 21st century skills are, of course, skills that empower young people with creativity, self-confidence, communication, problem solving in day-to-day life activities. So, you know, someone could be able to speak English, someone could be able to do math. In fact, you could even go and start your own business. But if you lack the ability to communicate, let's say in a formal or informal way with either your friends or your clients or boss, your business may not be very successful. And we've noticed that that is not directly or deliberately taught within schools. When I was posting about Fandu, I mentioned that I remember it for the first time in years, that in my primary school, they taught me how to post a letter at the PO box. First of all, I've never posted a letter at the PO box. Yeah. All I do now is send emails. I found a way of learning, but that was not taught to me in school. Now, one of the tasks in Fandu is how to write an email. And every young person around the country, if they have access to the phone, even if it's not theirs and it's their parents, they should be able to access such skills. So that is how UNICEF in Uganda celebrated World Skills Day by launching a tool which is freely accessible for all young people to learn these 21st century skills that are going to create that leap. That even if someone has just done P7 or Form 6, they can learn these things that they can use either in their business or their work and make them capable to perform even with not the highest level of education.
Thank you. Jotham,
Yes.
you were earlier very interested in people doing arts, right? Most of us here are people who did arts. If I'm not afraid, all of us. And you understand that the government has been highly interested in skilling people on grounds of providing vocational, vocational education, in training people on this manual work, let's say woodwork, metalwork, among others. And that is something that they've been doing. And Jamada tells us that Fandu is focused on giving us 21st century skills. That is communication, problem solving, critical thinking, among others. Now, when we're relating the two, are we, as a country, do you think we are somehow away from urbanization or how should I put it, urbanization or civilization? That our system is so focused on doing what we used to do then. You see how our education system, Jamada talked about, posting a letter, and that is something that they still learn up to today. Yeah. So do you think it's high time we possibly revised how we train our children in schools to have these 21st century skills that are very essential in the world today? But I also know the aspect of how we're going to achieve this. So as we can. But speak to that, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. On that note, I would love to first clarify on that. The government is under transition to that. Because if you realize we have schools that are doing this even at nursery level, but the question remains accessibility and terms how can people access those schools. But in the local communities or in the local setting areas where people are trying again to be civilized, the great work they are doing, sensitizing people in the local community about mindset changing. I want to look in the perspective where we are having vocational training in local communities. I think that should be the best skilling, the best the best talk that I can talk about in
those hard skills.
Hard skills. These guys are really being transformed. If you see how they are doing there in the craft world, if you see how they are doing welding, these are the things that even they are appreciating. I remember His Excellency talked about some time back about that if you cannot access university, why can't we empower these people to go for vacation? And if you go out from vocation institution, then you can start up your workshop. Even it has been done by the government, empowering through there is that scheme. Not the Myoga, the scheme about where they were empowering not ladies even. I think it is.
It's in Western Uganda.
In Western Uganda, but it's all over.
Yeah, because I know
we have skilling centers.
Definitely, it's all over. But the first group that graduated was last year from Western Uganda.
Sure, yes, right. Yeah, very true. If you realize all that setting that we are having right now, we are on a level of transition. We are trying to see that people can achieve. But at the same time, we need to question the accessibility that the government is promising a lot. If you remember, there is a time where the government was saying that we are going to adapt e-learning. And they released a budget, something a lot of money to buy radios, iPads.
Wow. I remember where the money for
they even registered. They passed by our school and they registered some people for iPads till now. So
we are waiting, government. We are waiting.
So till now, if you see such things that are happening, really they are discouraging. But I want to appreciate people are acknowledging that. Okay, right now that we need to go and we need to skill ourselves. Actually, besides the Ministry of ICT, I acknowledge this year, they pass through different universities to train different ambassadors about IT free of charge. Free of charge. You know, even they had an incentive of meals from morning to evening.
Young people.
Free of charge. They did a lot, and it was really good where they could teach us that if we go back to our local communities, we should be ambassadors. We should at least help people, teach them how to use a smartphone, teach these people with businesses to transit from writing either to use a computer. And this is a skill which was given for free.
Yeah.
And then why should I hide it? Then at the same time, myself with Teach for Uganda, they also do the same. That we the graduates, they have a recruit of graduates. They are skilled. They are given different techniques of how they can, actually mostly in schools for them, the tools in schools. At least I got an opportunity to see iPads being taken to local communities. We have Namayumba, there is that skilling center for Teach for Uganda in local schools. And then now they are extending in Kagadi, where we are seeing that, okay, let us have this child from deep, actually you are sent to that local community where even you have to, they give you transport to go in town, charge for your iPad, then you come and train. So that at the end of the day, once maybe you get exposure to such skills, as he said, communication and others, it is good for you. But at the same time, communication skills are very vital. We the youth, we are lacking that. I think that's the best thing we need to work on, starting from universities, secondary, and I think primary. We need to improve on our communication skills.
Yeah, I think that is very important. At my university, if me and you come from the same institution, there's a program called Writing and Study Skills where you do in year 1 and year 2, and they teach you these things on how to draft an email, how to write a formal letter. I think possibly it should be introduced all over all institutions. We also have computer. There's called basic computing. That is something that I think should be adopted in almost every institution of higher learning. But thank you. Let me invite Namara. Then I have Gloria. Namara, right now we are speaking niceties about how. We're just speaking niceties. But I also want us to look at the dark side. A few weeks back, medical interns were on a strike. And this year's theme for World Skills Day was skilling teachers, trainers, and youth for a transformative future. The government was supposed to allocate a particular amount of money to go ahead and provide with these interns to facilitate wherever they're going to be posted for their feeding and their social well-being in that community. But then there's been issues of money. Yeah. I still bring back the question of, are we really in the path of realizing the transformative future that we yearn for if we cannot facilitate medical interns?
That still draws us back to the question of whether our government prioritizes education.
Yeah.
Because now, when you see medical interns, actually not just medical interns, be it sciences or arts, they are exploited. And the government cannot cover at least half of, probably to compensate for the things they do. Now that brings about the chaos with the medical interns. Because for them, for a hospital, okay, I had in Mulago, most of the doctors, top people that are supposed to do things,
unavailable.
They are not available. You find the medical interns being exploited. They do everything. They are supposed to come at work in time, but at what cost? Their funding, their transport, their meals, their time. Yes, it's a skill they are learning. They're trying to practice what they are studying, but that comes at their cost, and yet the people that are supposed to be doing those things are exploiting them. Now that's why I feel like the government does not prioritize education.
We are way off
from the skilling and
I'm saying Jamana smiling. Maybe we shall get to you. let me have Gloria. Gloria, still, early on niceties. I want us to look at the dark side as well. At the moment, we have a number of interns all over. Be it someone who is doing law, be it someone who is doing accounting, be it someone who is doing whichever program that one is part of. Right now, this is the period of doing internship. But then, on the issues of scaling teachers, trainers, among others, you find that accessing these particular offices that you want to go and intern is a challenge. That even when you get the opportunity to get there and intern, some offices do not even give the interns the motivation to intern. You get, some people are complaining that you come to someone's farm, you do for them their work, and they cannot even provide you with the barest minimum of lunch or transport refund.
Other people are paying to do intern.
Yeah, and others are paid. but the saddest part here is our country is every man for himself. So speak to that. I know you've had an issue when you tell us, but go ahead and speak.
Well, when it gets to our country, it's really sad that we are trying so hard to attain education at all costs, but even we are to get the minimum skills that can add on the classwork we have, because for years our thing has been theoretical. So this time around we are trying to improve, and we are like, we need it practically. People are available, we are available, we really want to go and do the practice. We don't have the support. Imagine intern doctors being at home. At least I've been a beneficiary of a public hospital whereby I had a mom who was sick, and we couldn't raise the private funds like to access,
to facilitate the
yes,
private hospital.
I think it was 2021 to 2022. My mom survived because of a medical intern student who committed to help my mom throughout. Because when it gets to the specialists, they're overwhelmed. This time around, we're not going to be to do the blame game every time. They're not at station, they're not doing their duty. First of all, they're also demotivated in some way. But well, they took on these professions, we expect them to deliver regardless. So the intern doctors have been there for us. Me, at least, I can
testify to that.
True. Then we have some other interns you find in court. They're interns, engineering, everywhere. These people are doing something. So they are really trying their level best. Can we please try to motivate them so that they can really have the passion, so that they can develop the skills they need at that station where they are? Because literally, if I'm not given lunch, I'll be like, hey, why should I even go there? Next time, you find that I'm supposed to be at station at 9, but this time around, I'm like, I need like a side hustle somewhere so that I can raise the transport that can bring me and do the practice. So skills are some things that, skilling is something that is really important, and having a skill is something, it's a lifetime achievement. So that's why we're here, and on behalf of my fellow youth, I know the struggle is real. I'm here to call upon the government, please help us. We really need motivation, because we really need these skills. There is no way we are going to compete internationally when we don't have these skills. But what is stopping us from getting the skills is the lack of motivation. Yeah.
Thank you. Jamada. Niceties. Niceties only, yeah? I want us now to create a link between the loan scheme and World Skills Day. You understand that the loan scheme was the major requirement. You should have gotten admitted in an institution, particularly doing a STEM-related course. That means you should be doing sciences. And the beneficiaries of this are majorly science students. And World Skills Day is also focusing on people who are doing entrepreneurship, people who are, people who have those skills. But yet, our loan scheme was only focusing on STEM. Yet we have people who are highly skilled in entrepreneurship, people who could do any other decent work. So I wanted to speak to the issue of just create the relationship between the two and show us how devastating or how positive it is.
The how devastating or positive what is?
Yeah, choose.
Oh no, I'm asking that you will repeat what
Okay.
exactly you want.
But my question is, create the relationship between the students' loan scheme that has been suspended vis-a-vis World Skills Day. Remember, the theme of World Skills Day is skilling teachers, trainers, and youth for a transformative future. And again, at the moment that on July 6th, the loan scheme was suspended. And you know that this particular loan scheme was provided for science students. And the science students are the ones supposed to go ahead and give us these, mostly the ones who are tech geniuses in Uganda, medical, among others. Now, show the relationship between the suspension of the loan scheme and how this affects realizing the goal or the mission of having World Skills Day.
All right. It really does sound like you are asking me two questions. One, whether STEM subjects should be prioritized in the student loan scheme, and two, the link between skilling and the suspension of the student's loan. One, the suspension of the student's loan really is a step back in the skilling progress that the government has been trying to make. Glad that we've mentioned some of the attempts that the government has made, so they will not say that we do not see everything else that they're doing, but we must also point out that it has always been very important that people are able to access information, are able to access education, and in this regard, suspending the students' loan scheme is really retrogressive against that. But then on the question of whether STEM subjects should be prioritized in regards to the students' loan scheme. Again, I'm going to go out on the line here and say that when you look at things like entrepreneurship, government has made entrepreneurship, has or will make entrepreneurship a compulsory subject within high school. And I think that the entrepreneurship that I learned in senior 3 or senior 4, the little that I did, was somewhat sufficient in enabling me know that if you are able to raise a few funds, you should be able to start a business and try and manage it. Yes. So the government's decision really to prioritize STEM courses is not entirely flawed, because we see the gaps truly within our health systems, and we see the need entirely within, let's say, our construction industry, that we may need a lot more engineers than we do other professions, let's say business people. Not everyone would be able to start a business. So I do not necessarily think that that was a wrong thing to do. However, the challenges around the program raise a lot of questions about the implementation of even that deliberately and seemingly positive and calculated step that the government decided to take.
Okay, thank you very much. Namara, right now we're trying to create that link, the relationship between the suspension of the students' loan scheme and World Skills Day, and Jamad has done a good job in trying to do that. Now, you yourself, you're a reporter, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
And you are advocating for people to go ahead and acquire communication, problem-solving skills, among others, those 21st century skills that are very essential. And you realize that, I don't know, it's oftentimes, or it is a norm here in Uganda, that when we're in school, they categorized people who did arts as people who would, possibly think out of the box, who freestyle, and people who did sciences as people who, the smart ones, and they follow what is in the book.
People who call XX.
Definitely. Now, I just wanted to address the issue of how this suspension is taking us steps backwards in trying to have young people equipped with skills that would enable them to start up entrepreneurial ventures or farms that would support them in years to come?
Well, to start with, the loan scheme was basically for the people that do STEM subjects. Suspending the scheme is going to affect, for example, someone that was doing, let's say, a mathematics course. The fact that they cannot go on further with the skills they learn, probably to code or get whatever career they're aiming at, they are going to lag behind, since some of them are not exposed to other skills like the 21st century skills, and they are only aiming at getting those skills to push them further in life. So I feel like suspending the loan scheme has made the government to go a step back with its goal for skilling the youth. Maybe if they can put up something that the youth, these people, can maybe try to do in this period, equip them with other skills that are not necessarily those school, I call them school skills, that can better their life, and they can make them think outside the box, like in case school fails, because that is the kind of position they are in right now, that in case this fails, what else can I do on my own?
Okay.
Yes.
Jotham, you listen to her and she says, equip people with other skills that in case school fails. Are we on that trajectory? Because I realize, or you realize, that at the moment, skills such as coding, skills such as, apart from coding, even content creation is something
and
that
journalism.
often, that in this modern day and age, isn't taught in a number of schools. And it you find, in developed worlds, coding is being taught as low as when someone
Primary.
starts
In Kenya,
picking.
they adapted it, yes.
Yeah, it's like when these kids at a young age. Yeah. So do you think it's high time as a country we possibly ventured in areas that would educate the younger generation with skills that are for this current day and age?
Yeah, first and foremost, okay, on that question, I feel like it's high time. But now on the issue of STEAM, we need to first question the capability of the 1,000, was it 1,000 students you said? The beneficiary. How 13,000, how effective have they been to us? Because we believe these people have been well equipped with knowledge and all have been funded and facilitated. Then it goes back around that we need to first set ourselves as we people, as maybe the government plans, because really it is a necessity right now. I do journalism. You find in currently what we do in class is more of theory. They will teach you this is a camera, they will teach you what and what, but again, it is a collective effort. It comes back to you, the passion you have for the skill. You can wake up, content creation, people in my class, people even who are not doing journalism. You wake up, you teach yourself online, you see how best can I equip myself, how can I run my social media handles. These are the things that we need also to do if you have passion for something. I'm teaching myself graphics, even though it is in class, it is something which is taught in theory, but realize this is the passion I have. I sit down on my PC every day, I go through different tutorials, I teach myself. Right now, I'm on the course. I think I'll be graduating. I'll graduate myself on that. But I feel like it is a collective effort. As government is fighting hard, we shall not wait for the government. But again, it comes back to us. We, the people. Like if you have something you need, sit down, see how best you can achieve it. If you need communication skills, if you need maybe content creation skills, there are those skills which are limited to us that we can achieve that. There are those skills which require a long-term achievable plan. And I think those ones you can learn strategy how you can achieve them, but there are these limited skills which can take us a mile. People are paid to do content. A person, a social media influencer, just to rise up a post on the page and people like and follow, comment, is given something good money. And these are the skills that are helping out young people today. And I feel like government should prioritize equipping people. As I told you, Ministry of ICT has a small scale where they equip youth on IT skills. Mostly it is free of charge. Mostly at the beginning of the year, they normally have it. These are the skills they teach you. They teach you how basic skills that can help you to live. Basic skills that can help you to live. But when it comes back to class, I feel like we need to revise our curriculum. Even though they have tried in secondary, but I feel like charity begins at home. So we need to start from primary, where we encourage students. In America, let me tell you what they do. In these elementary schools, people don't learn. Okay, in some schools, these young babies, they take to, there is a documentary I was watching, how these people put a lot of things, dolls, toys, what and what. So you find a child picking passion. This person will start building those. Another, then a baby will start planting hair. Others will be into music. Others. So kids pick passion. Others will be playing with planes. So at the end of the day, you find that these kids are picking interest in what they want, and their government is good enough helping them to pursue that. You find a child knows from the beginning that, okay, I want to be a pilot, I want to do that, and they focus on that. At the end of the day, if you feel like you made a wrong decision, that's you. You can have another path. But with that, I feel like it's a collective responsibility. It starts with you, and me here. Then we need to change the mindset of people. Thank you.
Gloria, Jotham says that it is individual effort.
Sure.
I want us to now bring the conversation to reality as well. We have a number of young people who do not have access to smartphones, who do not have access to internet. And the few who have access, remember, internet penetration in Uganda is still quite low. And Fundu, that
You're not alone.
Fundu that has been made by UNICEF is one that you need to have a smartphone, and they're soon graduating to text messages. Still, challenges of accessibility is still faced. I wanted to paint for us a picture that how real can young Ugandans actually equip themselves with these skills amidst these challenges? Is there a way how maybe there can be a government intervention to come up with hubs in districts to help young people?
True. I feel there is a way, because government has the capacity. Our government is not so lame. I just wanted to agree. We might call ourselves third class world, but we have the capability to do that. Here we would just request, however much it's a personal initiative, still we need government to look at to intervene certain policies. We need some policies to be changed so that they can go in line with skilling, because you realize, leave alone the internet skilling, everything, our economy depends on taxes. Look at the most people who pay taxes. There are people who have their own skills, like hairdressing, because literally if I'm a doctor, a doctor, I'm expecting to earn from the taxes someone at the grassroots, someone who is plaiting their hair with the tax they're paying. So I feel maybe the government should try and bring a blended version. However much that you're skilled, you're doing your hairdressing, can you be in position to do that side hustle? I would call it side hustle. You can do the you can do the, it will really, it makes you more, how can I really term it? It makes you more appropriate for the world right now, because the world is tech. There is no way we are going to run away from tech, whether we like it or not.
Definitely.
So I would call upon still the government. Don't get tired. Government, change your political will. I may not be really well informed with your political will, but look at personal human capital development. People need these skills. you are also surviving because of the skills that people have. And you realize a majority of Ugandans, they have these skills, they are not satisfied, but they have tried. So government, please help us get for us platforms, make policies whereby if I am good at my craft work can be recognized here and internationally.
yeah.
That will increase even the income. You can imagine if I'm selling my basket in dollars, because it's the basket made in Uganda is the same as the basket made where in America. Like we really have to get to a point whereby there is a win-win situation. Like the skilling is really up to a point, because you realize maybe the guys who do our pedicure, they've learned these things on their own. But government is talking about the skilling. Please make it practical, because people in downtown, if you really make it a point and you tell them that you are not going to run a business not until you go and achieve that skill, like professional skill. Because you can imagine if someone is doing pedicure, manicure, because it's a talent, and this time around this person has been helped and
Equipped with the relevant skill in that line.
thank you, this person is going to be good at communication, entrepreneurship. In the long
And they'll
run,
manage
people,
the
the
businesses.
taxes we shall be getting will increase, whereby we shall stop singing this song of scarce resources. We have the resources, but how to achieve those resources
All right.
is still the question.
Okay, Gloria. Maybe as now we have reached the hour of our conversation, but in summary, I want you to give your final remarks to the topic we had today, and you can tell the viewers a few words as well.
Well, thank you very much. Dear viewers, basically my parting shots will go to the youth. Youth, the future is now. And I will directly direct my message to National Youth Council. What are you doing? You are put in position to build a gap between the youth and the government. Our budget, as the NCY was cut, now loan scheme has been scrapped off or suspended. What are you doing? We need action. It's better for us to say well done rather than well said. Thank you.
Powerful. That has captured my attention. That
Can
has
we
captured my
stop?
attention. But still, it's very interesting. You expect the National Youth Council definitely to advocate for these issues, not just when the budgets are cut. That's a topic for another day. Just as your parting shots.
Thank you so much for hosting me. I'm so excited and delighted to be part of this conversation with these grateful people here. But as we conclude today, I just want to encourage my fellow youth to grab spaces. Spaces are there outside. Spaces are looking for youth. But it depends on how you position yourself, and it depends on how basically you position yourselves outside there. In today's topic, we discussed a number of issues that are pressing people via loan schemes and what. But I want to encourage you. This is not the end. As the government is trying to see its best way with its possible eyes, let us try to look for other means to see that we cater and we push outside there. Otherwise, I wish you the best. Grab the spaces. That's what I can say.
Thank you. As you've heard from Jotham, there are very much opportunities out there. It's up to you, the young person, to look for them and grab them. But also, you people who give young people spaces, make it more accessible.
Please make it
more accessible, not for the few. Yeah,
Tell the government.
It's not about the government. It's about the people who give those spaces. On a
Yes.
serious note, people give out spaces, make it more accessible for young
Exactly.
people. It shouldn't be for the urban youth. Think about the rural youth, who are the greater majority as well.
And a girl child as well.
Well, a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Namara, your parting shots.
My petition is to the viewer, especially someone that has been affected by the loan scheme, the suspension. I want to reach out to you and tell you that you should not sit on yourself. This is not the end of the world. Make it a personal initiative to learn a skill. Go on YouTube, watch tutorials, try out the Fundu, see what you can learn, see where your potential lies.
Nice.
And also to the government, please bring some hope to these people, because right now they are hopeless. And the best thing they need is some hope. Maybe revise the suspension, make a communication, or try to reach out to them and see what they can do during this period of time. Otherwise, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Namara. Jamada, your parting shots, my brother.
Again, I thank you, Drake, and for this platform. It's really impactful for young people. And in regards to this discussion, it's very important to remind the government that this is not a country of roads or oil or anything. It's a country of citizens. It's a country of Ugandans, refugees, and different communities. And we need to invest in these communities by ensuring that they are educated, skilled, and healthy. Any effort or decision should put that at the forefront, and the suspension of the students' loan scheme doesn't seem to do that. It's also important for young people to remember that certain things we can only do for ourselves, and that includes skilling. Yes, the government needs to revise its education programs, but we also need to take deliberate efforts in seeking out for the platforms that increase our ability to be skilled and seeking out for these skills. That's the only way that we can better our communities and ourselves.
Thank you very much, Jamada, for that wonderful closing. Otherwise, been very happy and humble that I had you, all of you, on tonight's panel. It has been interesting. It has been informative. It has been interesting. And from me to you, I've been your host today. My name is Douglas Drekonem, and I've been joined by university students from Makerere, from Uganda Christian University, and Busitema University. Thank you very much. Catch you again same time next week. We remain the inter-university debate. Thank you to Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV, to the technical crew, Rashid and team. Thank you for always making sure that the show is up on time and for our viewers to enjoy. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel and keep enjoying the content that comes therein. Thank you. Have a nice week.